Here's one of these silly uh, stories here. Conservative leader calls for the funding of PBS. Of course, PBS, Public Broadcasting Service, here in New York City, they're in Channel 13 and I believe 21. Over Sesame Street intro of Asian American Muppet. There hasn't been an Asian American Muppet on the show. A conservative union chairman has called out PBS and proposed to defund the network after its children's show Sesame Street introduced its first ever Asian American Muppet early this week. What happened? Matt Schlapp, the president of the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, took to Twitter on Monday to criticize PBS and Sesame Street for introducing Ji Young, a 7-year-old Korean American Muppet. Matt Schlapp on Twitter asked, "What race is Ernie?" It's Bert. "You are insane, PBS, and we should stop funding you." What race is Ernie? You're insane. Although the popular American children's show has already featured Asian Americans in the past, such as Alan Muraoka, who played shopkeeper Alan, Ji Young will make history as the series' first Asian American Muppet since its inception in 1969. The reaction. Many social media users quickly called out Schlapp's comment about a puppet on the children's TV show. Right? I'm not a shrink, but if I had to define insanity, it would be a grown man demanding to know the race of fictional characters made of styrofoam and felt. This is fine, sirs. Matt Schlapp is calling for PBS funding to stop over a new Asian Muppet, and I can't stop laughing at these fragile, pathetic men. Chantal Spurgeon, the conservative activist Matt Schlapp, thinks PBS should be defunded for Sesame Street, adding an Asian American puppet. But liberals are the snowflakes? Christopher Michael, Matt Schlapp thinks kids programming that attempts to address Asian hate in America is insane and should be defunded. Cause Matt Schlapp's a gigantic white privileged asshole and hates his country's growing diversity with a Nazi level passion. Another user also shared screenshots of Schlapp's past social media posts in which he echoed the same anti-Asian remarks Trump used in the early months of the COVID-19 pandemic. Said Matt Schlapp is the David Duke of Lindsey Graham's. I really wish he would stop spewing anti-Asian rhetoric on Twitter. The ACU conservatives should not be run by a married couple that spreads racist sentiments on the internet. The Schlapp should resign. This was not the first time a conservative has called out Sesame Street for teaching children about the values of respect, health, and inclusion. Senator Ted Cruz of Texas criticized Big Bird, one of the show's most iconic characters, early this month after he tweeted about getting the COVID-19 vaccine. Government propaganda for your 5-year-old. Big Bird tweeted, I got the COVID-19 vaccine today. My wing is feeling a little sore, but it'll give my body an extra protective boost that keeps me and others healthy. Yeah, isn't that something? So I think what they're aiming for is inclusion, because you haven't had any Asian characters, and they specifically pointed out Asians are not just a blanket group of people. this Muppet will be Korean. See? That makes a big difference. So this is a Korean Asian Muppet, not just Asian. So that makes a big difference. And it all has to do with inclusion, which is something conservatives who tend to come across as small-minded can't seem to get, that America is not like it was back then in 1969. Remember, it was in 1964, when they passed the immigration law that allowed people, to come into this country from other parts of the world that normally were not allowed when they had the Chinese Exclusion Act. That went all the way, and until they changed the immigration laws in 1965, to come here you had to come in by merit. you couldn't really come in like how people come in now. Even me, when I went to high school, and this was downtown Brooklyn, back in the 70s, there were no Chinese in my class, Nope. We had maybe a couple Indian people, I think but these were Indians from Guyana, not from India. And my high school is within walking distance from Brooklyn Technical High School in Fort Greene. I can walk there, maybe in under 15 minutes or less. Yeah, probably 12 minutes or so. I can walk there because my high school is around Dean Street, 4th Avenue. So if you walk from there to DeKalb Avenue, right across from the Brooklyn Hospital Emergency Department, you have Brooklyn Tech. And if you pass there today, you see that most of the students in there are Chinese. Yeah, which is very interesting. Back in my days, that was not the case. You see, so I'm just showing how different it is now. So when I was in high school, I had no Chinese in my class, none whatsoever. No one was Chinese, either white, black, Hispanic. I had people from Central America, like Nicaragua and so forth, but nobody say from Hong Kong, from China. Now it's different. Now you see, of course, you had people you always had Chinatown. Chinatown was always there, but they had their schools in that area. And back then, you didn't have the Chinese kids you see going to Brooklyn Tech. No, that didn't exist back then. You see? So we live in a different time, and people need to acknowledge that. And instead of moving forward, they want to move backward.